By including a Session 0 at the start of a Dungeons & Dragons, many problems can be addressed and fixed before they even start. Session 0 provides Dungeon Masters the opportunity to give a short description of what their campaign will be about and what will be included, and it gives players the opportunity to discuss their characters with each other and the Dungeon Master. Many of the problems that arise due to lack of communication can be solved by sitting down before the campaign starts and working through them ahead of time. A Session 0 occurs before the start of gameplay in a Dungeons & Dragons campaign. The players and Dungeon Master meet up and lay out the basics of the campaign. Often, topics discussed include the players' characters, campaign content, a brief synopsis of what to expect from the DM, and setting boundaries, which is why all DMs should include a Session 0. When executed successfully, this will preface a smooth start to a campaign and ensure it remains as easy as possible to run and play in. A Session 0 is designed to work out the kinks of a campaign before the Dungeons & Dragons campaign actually begins and can be used to address a variety of issues. Sometimes, these issues never would have come up and gone completely unnoticed. When issues would crop up, a Session 0 ensures that everyone knows what to do and how to deal with them. Often, problems that would occur in the absence of a Session 0 fail to appear when it is included. Dungeons & Dragons character conflict can start and end in Session 0. Party cohesion is a key factor in any successful Dungeons & Dragons campaign. A party of characters that can play off of each other's strengths while covering for each other's weaknesses can, quite literally, conquer the world, especially if they have interesting D&D party background combinations. A party that's constantly bickering or stepping on each other's toes would barely conquer a flagon of ale at the tavern they inevitably start in. When players convene for a Session 0, it is a good chance for everyone to discuss the characters they have in mind. Some players may bring a character min-max to the extreme and able to leap tall buildings in a single jump action, while others forsook good stats for the sake of good roleplay opportunities. If each player in a Session 0 brings a character or concept that they have and is willing to discuss it with their fellow party members, they can ensure that the entire party, and by extension the DM, is operating with the same expectations for party composition and action, and that the DM is, probably, not out to get players. A Session 0 gives parties a chance to work this out before it comes out at an awkward time in the middle of a campaign. Boundaries can be set and adjusted during a Dungeons & Dragons Session 0. People have different expectations on what is appropriate to include in a Dungeons & Dragons game. Some people are comfortable enough with sensitive subjects to not object when they are included in a game, while others are not. These are important things to know before a campaign starts. It is up to the players and the Dungeon Master to establish what the themes of the campaign will be and whether they will stray into territory that some may not be comfortable with. Everyone present should be open and honest about their boundaries, both soft and hard, and whether they expect or desire them to be pushed in the coming game. This ensures that no one is negatively impacted at the table when something happens in the campaign that touches on one of these boundaries, even if the party is killing everything in an evil D&D campaign. In Dungeons & Dragons, cut the Dungeon Master some slack with a Session 0. A Session 0 can be a good information gathering session for a Dungeons & Dragons Dungeon Master. Players may have ideas that stray far beyond what the Dungeon Master thought would be in the campaign. Getting blindsided by one of these at the table during a session could throw off the Dungeon Master's plans entirely and lead to hasty decisions or, in the worst-case scenario, even derail the campaign entirely. By having a Session 0, a DM can get a sense of what each player expects out of the game and adjust their plans accordingly. Some may want a classic dungeon crawl, a Dungeon of the Mad Mage, while others may want world-spanning adventures found in books like the upcoming D&D Dragonlance setting and its iconic villain and Icewind Dale, Rime of the Frost Maiden. The information gathered at a Session 0 can inform the tone and plot of an entire campaign. The campaign will run all the smoother thanks to the Dungeon Master having prior knowledge of any previously unexpected player shenanigans. Figure out where a Dungeons & Dragons story begins with a Session 0. Sometimes, a Session 0 can be used to figure out just where the Dungeons & Dragons party begins their tale. For DMs running a homebrew campaign, they may not want to start in a tavern like so many other campaigns. A Session 0 gives a unique opportunity to discuss how the player characters know each other before starting the campaign, or indeed if they do at all. If they do, perhaps more of a hot start is in order. Players could decide that they want their campaign to open at the close of some other thrilling adventure, and a Session 0 gives them and the DM the opportunity to determine just what shape that takes and raid their bookshelf for books that every Dungeon Master has on them. A Session 0 is an invaluable tool that any Dungeons & Dragons party can take advantage of. In addition to allowing players and Dungeon Masters to set boundaries that last the entire campaign, it also prevents unwelcome surprises further down the line, allows players to make sure that their characters work well, or work well by not working well together, and that no one is outpowering the others, and allows the DM to gather vital intel that will help them plan out the rest of the campaign. A Session 0 should be thought of whenever anyone is looking to start up a new campaign